We're here with the first episode of Mojito with Majeeto, and I'm gonna be doing my first ever interview with Manu Bennett. Firstly, how are you?
How are you?
I'm
That's
doing
a
good.
rhetorical question. Yeah.
Manu Bennett, legend, Crixus the Undefeated from Spartacus, and Azog from the Hobbit Trilogy, and Deathstroke. Can't forget about that. How are you? How has been your time in Dubai lately?
Dubai is interesting. You know, it's a country that I visited once before, maybe about 12 years ago. I came to the very first, one of the very first conventions held here. You know, it's grown so much in 10 years. It's incredible to see. It's a country on the march. It's a country of progress. It's a city of progress. Abu Dhabi's like an incredible city of, I guess, organization. You know, a lot of the politics, a lot of the, I guess, more of the administrative level comes from Abu Dhabi, and I guess this is like the shining gem, Dubai. So it's fascinating to see how this country is run and how its trajectory is really progressive and leading the way into the future. Yeah, amazing city. Yeah.
I heard the rumor that Spartacus is returning.
Yes.
Crixus return?
Well, no, it's called the House of Asher.
Yeah.
Coming back with a storyline based around, I guess, the villain of the show, Asher. I don't know what it's about. I'm not involved
It
as
would be interesting
creating.
if you were involved.
Well, you know, I could ask that question as well.
But I really love Crixus and the Spartacus show. That I love everything about Spartacus. It's such an epic show. All of the fight scenes are so perfectly choreographed. So how was it like filming the fighting choreography in Spartacus and as Azog and Hobbit Trilogy and as Deathstroke? How was it like differentiating between all of that?
Well, you know, different weapons, different characters. You know, one is ancient times with, you know, gladiatorial weapons. Slade Wilson's a modern military man with guns, and I mean, he still swings a sword, but more contemporary styles, close hand-to-hand combat. Azog is just a giant orc. So, you know, the physicality of each character is different. But, you know, I mean, as an actor, you look for whatever suits the character, you know. There's a largeness to each character. Each character has a different personal story, of course, a different personal narrative. Probably one of the hardest personal narratives to create was Azog, because you have to get inside the mind of a creature, you know.
Yeah.
But I sort of based the character
Was it
on.
hard to be?
Well, I based the character on Jaws.
Oh.
You know, so all I thought about was he was an apex predator, and then I thought to myself, like, well, what is a shark thinking when it's lurking around? You know, what's a great white? What are its thoughts? Pretty minimal, you know, pretty minimal amount of thinking when you're an apex predator. I think you're just you look to dominate, you know. Yeah.
You were Azog in the Hobbit trilogy. As being an actor in the Hobbit trilogy, what's your favorite movie out of the Hobbit and Lord of the Rings?
You know what, you're going to put me on the spot here, but you know, personally, I'll say I really enjoyed Lord of the Rings. It was iconic. The characters were beautifully archetypal. They were in a relationship. The relationships in Lord of the Rings were very, very emotional. You know, Samwise Gamgee with Frodo, the relationship between them, and of course you had like Gollum, you know, always trying to break up their friendship and do something deceptive. I mean, all of those characters I loved in Lord of the Rings. Maybe it was because I was in The Hobbit that it kind of threw me, you know. But I mean, The Hobbit was incredible CGI, incredible. You know, another story altogether. But like, if you ask me which of the Star Wars films were my favorite, you know, I'd go back to The Origin, because the characters seemed so fresh and new, and the whole world was vivid with a whole new imagination. And then as you go along, they start using more CGI, and they start, you know, the journeys aren't quite as pristine as the very first. Sometimes the first movies are the best, I think.
So you've been in DC. What would you like to play? Which character would you like to play in the Marvel Cinematic Universe?
I don't know. You know, I'm a little bit guarded when I try to speak about, you know, what do I want. I call comic books modern mythology. You know, So, like doing modern mythology is cool. It's up tempo, the production is very contemporary. Costumes, everything, Yeah, but when I played Slade Wilson, they were saying, look, we need you to be sort of different. We want the same energy. We want the same kind of, warrior, but we want it to be different. So, so I don't know. I just put the patch on. Not initially, actually. I just put the outfit on and imagined I was on an island with a young kid that I just found, and he's going to get killed unless I train him.
Yeah, it's a perfect way to explain it.
But then they made this love triangle story with Shadow, and that one came out of the blue, and it was all of a sudden, okay, where's this going? And next minute it was this kind of strange love triangle, but that was the only way to sort of start tearing the character of Slade and Oliver apart, so. And then came the Mirakuru, and a lot of people forget that he actually injected me with the Mirakuru. And then it was kind of like that became the monstrous side of Slade. Playing that side was interesting because I kind of treated it like it had the qualities of like drugs or alcohol. Like it's like something that totally twists the mind. So, what I enjoyed most about the Arrow series was actually coming out of that tunnel of self-destructiveness, or the influence of the Mirakuru on Slade, and actually finding himself again. And when Oliver came to release him from Lian Yu, there were these wonderful words where he turned around and he said to Oliver, I remember it all like a bad dream, and he's back to normal, and then suddenly him and Oliver walk out together, and I couldn't believe they actually pulled that off. I thought that it was impossible to bring the two characters back together in some way that they were working for a common cause, but the way that they built it around the fact that we had two sons was very, very well executed. Yeah.
So since you're Deathstroke, what do you think of the Zack Snyder Deathstroke and the Deathstroke that was in Teen Titans and the Titan show? Do you think you're the best one, and do you think you could beat them?
You know what? There's all that. I've seen the polls that are out there, and they go like, who was the best Deathstroke? What was the best outfit? I actually feel the way that I played Deathstroke, Slade Wilson. I noticed a whole bunch of actors after I'd done it all going with deep voices like this, and I thought, wait up, is this?
So they were trying to copy.
Did I create something? But and it was funny because when I first started doing the Shannara Chronicles with Austin Butler, Austin Butler who played Elvis. So him and I worked on this fantasy series called the Shannara Chronicles, and I had a character called Al-Anon, and the director was like, how about we don't do a Batman voice or something like that, how about we don't go deep, I don't know, I like to think that when you find a deep resonance and a certain tone, I think, drama is in a way kind of a signal, it's as much a signal the way it reaches the audience as a musical tone or as a sound wave, as it is the words that you're saying, because you could say the words 100 different ways, right? But if you deliver it with the same intent, the same, it's like you could play a chord on the piano, and that chord it could involve two fingers only, just two keys. It could involve 6 keys. But if you play it with the same tone, people feel it you can bang it, and it'll make people, you can touch it really softly, and people, so yeah, the compilation of actually working as an actor is a sort of I don't know. In some ways, I sort of see the industry that I work in as a part of the medical field, because we're affecting people at home in ways that is to do with their emotions.
So the people
sometimes
resonate with the characters
emotionally. Well, they resonate with themselves.
Yeah.
It's always about someone's perspective, so that's really important. I do what I do, but it really has no meaning unless it actually impacts somebody else's perspective,
Yeah, and enjoyment.
Yeah, when we come to conventions like this, and you meet people and you hear different people's takes on what it did to them, all the blokes will come and they go, oh, we love Crixus, and then somebody with a little bit more of a gentle heart will come in and go like, oh, I really felt when you and Navia were separated, like people have different ways of interpreting what it is that you're doing. But luckily, again, I'll say that the character of Crixus was so multi-layered, and I got to play it as an actor in so many multi-layered performance levels that yeah, there was something. I think there was something there for everyone to take on. It's kind of like music, It's like like everybody loves you too.
Yeah.
There's just some things that I mean, I was lucky. I didn't come up with Crixus. Stephen DeKnight wrote the series. Crixus and the Spartacus series. Stars and a guy called Rob Tappert and a guy called Bill Ham.
Sam Raimi too.
Sam Raimi in the background. Yeah, all of these guys were the ones that sort of brought it to the screen, right? I was a hired talent. But, when I took on the role, I owned it. I really took it on personally, and I used everything in my life, the tragedies, the triumphs. I used every corner of my emotional capacity to interact with that role, and I like to think that it was like in some ways I had a few tragedies in my life young, so I never graduated well from school because had a couple of car accidents in my family and stuff like that. So I never got through my schooling in a way. I always felt like a failure because basically in high school I just wasn't attending school just because I was going through a lot emotionally. Long story, but when I finished Spartacus, it was like I graduated,
Yeah.
It was like the first time in my life where I went, wow, I've actually done something for years in a row, dedicated 100% to it. And I've gotten to the end and I'm like, yes, I've done my very, very best, So
I'm proud of you.
I was, yeah, thank you, brother. I think, whenever I meet people in regard to Spartacus, I always get such a wonderful, warm response. So I was proud of the effort that I put in, and I'm glad that it reached the audience as a whole. And it's amazing how far it reached.
Yeah.
I've been in the north of Iceland, like in this most remote areas, and I'll be in a bar with these giant Icelandic Vikings, and some guy will turn around and go, Crixus, and I'll be like, and it's created a bridge for me to make friendships all over the world, including here. The reason why I actually came to the Arab Emirates is a guy called Sultan, a young guy called Sultan, said to me, "Oh, bro, you got to come to Dubai," and he was a fan of Spartacus, so
Good experience.
Yeah, good friendships everywhere. It's created for me.
What was your favorite part about filming Spartacus, or what was your most fun part?
It was the group. It was the group involvement that made it an enjoyable daily routine. I got it was the first real paycheck that I ever got in my life where I actually had enough money to go buy a car or anything like that. So I bought cars before, but I went out and I bought a convertible BMW. So my day would begin by getting up, having a healthy breakfast, jump in this convertible BMW that I had, and driving with the music blasting all the way to the studio. And we'd usually get there in the morning when it was still dark, and we'd get in and we'd do makeup and wardrobe, and we'd dress up as gladiators, and then we'd walk in and all the boys are there, and we're all doing the Spartacus handshake. We're all running in and grabbing each other like this, going, "Yeah, brother, let's go. What's going on today?" And it was the perfect job, in terms of like for camaraderie and friendship and brotherhood. It was, and especially if you were like interested in your own physical health and being, and you have that kind of, we're kind of all born into a semi-soft couple of generations, not all over the world, mind you, but I'm a Maori originally, and my ancestors were warriors, and maybe I'll never get a chance to be kind of like the warriors or of yesteryear, but in this moment of doing Spartacus, something about my ancestors came through as well. I got to play warrior in the safety of a film studio,
Yeah.
But we all dedicated ourselves pretty hard to the training. I think everything about it in its dynamics was this close to real, and of course, all the special effects and makeup and post-production, all that made it just very gory and very visceral, and that sort of pushing it to an adult level like that was something that made the series stand out as well. The fact that it was so dramatic for television. You know, it pushed the envelope on quite a few levels. Yeah.
For me, Spartacus is one of the best shows I ever watched. I'm only in season one. I'm so sorry, but I'm genuinely enjoying it so much.
Yeah, a lot of
The thing
people-
that caught my eye the most was the action scenes, how bloody it is, slow motion, epicness. It's just purely amazing.
Yeah. All that stuff kind of is quite dynamic to see visually, but the characters and the relationships were crafted extremely well. Stephen Knight did an amazing job,
Yeah.
and you know, and all the writers. You know, there's many writers on it. But you know, yeah, if you sat inside the character and each episode you got the script to read, you were always reading a new direction for your character. You know, it was like, whoa, wow, that's a really new dynamic step for, you know, either my relationship with Spartacus or my relationship with Navier or my relationship with Lucretia Domina or whatever. You know, it just kept on changing all the time. Asher.
Yeah.
So yeah, but I wish them the very best with the House of Asher. You know, Nick Tarabay is a wonderful actor. He did a fantastic job, and I hope that their series, The House of Asher, gets a lot of attention and success like Spartacus did.
I immediately fell in love with Crixus and everything you did with The Hobbit, and it's been an amazing time interviewing you today. And how has your experience been with PopCon lately?
Yeah, look,
being
PopCon's a wonderful event. I mean, unfortunately for the weather, didn't really hold up that well this weekend, and so you know, unfortunately, that affected very much the way this will be run because it was held outdoors. You know, I mean, great idea to hold it outdoors, and maybe one storm comes every year in Dubai, and it happened to happen this weekend. So
Yeah, last night it was so windy, so cold.
you know, so for Rashid and all of the organisers, it's been a real problem and a pain in the ass for them, and I feel for them.
Yeah.
But you know, Rashid's not one man at all to be knocked over, so he's going to get back up again, and next year PopCon will be very successful, inshallah, and we'll have better weather, you know, or it'll be inside.
So that's it for episode 1 of Mojito with Majeeto with Manu Bennett.
There you go. Thank you.